debate about exclusives continuously ramps up, especially as Xbox puts more of their games on PlayStation. PlayStation puts more of their games on PC. And Nintendo comes out and still saying that they are sticking solely on exclusives to really help sell their platform. The question is, do gamers actually want exclusives? And I've always thought the majority of people out there do not want them. It's just something that is a marketing ploy that people buy into and then continuously push forward as the main reason as to why one platform is better than the other. And Thomas Muller of Moon Studios, who's very outspoken, put out a post here that a lot of people are talking about, a lot of people are voting on, and he's testing out the principle of exclusives as to whether you believe that they are needed. Are you for it? Are you against it? We do know developers, they probably, for the majority of them, don't care about exclusives. They want as many people to play their games as possible, but because of the contracts they sign and the companies they work for, sometimes they just don't have that choice. If they're a PlayStation studio or even an Xbox studio, with some games currently only locked to the Xbox platform, and then of course all of the Nintendo studios. But there's a post going around here that's creating a very big and good discussion around the principle of exclusives and whether people are for them or against them. Thomas Muller puts this out here. He says quite a few people are still arguing the case for exclusives. Let us test the principle. How would you feel about Valve paying developers to keep their games exclusive to Steam in order to increase the value proposition of PC gaming? I voted against it, of course, because if you've watched my channel, you know that I don't care about this whole locking people out of playing games type of thing. And the majority of the people are actually voting against this. 75.4% at the time that I clicked on this are against it, which would mean, again, locking games exclusively to Steam and PC gaming, and only 24.6% of people are for it. I think it does definitely give a difference of ideology we have in the gaming industry between the PC gamers and the console gamers, where if you were to put this poll out specifically, I would say for the PlayStation side and maybe even for the Xbox side of things, you would probably see a quite different poll here. On Xbox, I would say there would still be a decent amount of people that are against it. However, on the PlayStation side, I wouldn't be surprised if that poll was almost around a 50-50. I still think there would be more people on the PlayStation side if you just get out of the fanboy bubble who would be against exclusives, and they would be okay with other people playing their games if it just meant more games for them, more content, all that type of stuff, and it makes the games of the community better. But I think there would be overall a different discussion. We go down here, he puts out an explanation and kind of the discussion that this does bring up, this poll. And it goes on and says, I think these numbers speak a pretty clear language. If 75% of people are against exclusives on PC, I'm not sure I understand the argument for certain games to only be available on PlayStation. Again, I don't understand the argument either. He says, I'm guessing the most convincing argument is that certain first-party games wouldn't get made in the first place if there's no strong hardware sales backing that concept, but that argument doesn't really work if we're looking at current development costs of the AAA studios. And that's exactly what I've been saying, and many people have been saying. You just need to look at the numbers of these things. It's way too expensive to continuously want to lock games exclusively to the platform and then expect these companies to still be able to be profitable, meet the shareholders' expectations that all these publicly traded companies have, and have all that stuff going for it, and then only being able to lock the games to a finite amount of people. If you want to continue to get big AAA experiences, you can't really be for locking games to a singular platform. It's completely different than the Nintendo strategy, which the development costs are far less. So they are still able to do it. But at a point, if Nintendo starts pushing their development costs to hundreds of millions of dollars per game, I think you'll see them also kind of taking a shift here in their ideology. It says, if it's necessary to risk 100 to 300 million USD or more on a project, you're clearly not doing yourself any favors by restricting that product to only being sold to a limited audience. Just common sense stuff here. This is just basic common sense in my opinion. It says Sony has sold 65 million PS5s globally, but Steam alone has 132 million monthly active users, and Nintendo has sold 150 million Switch units. Xbox Series S is at 30 million units sold. Would it even be possible to make a PS5 first-party game that could sell 15 to 20 million units? Doesn't seem likely at this point. You need to make a product that out of every 3 people in your entire installed base purchases. And if you vested all the resources to make a product like that, is it really wise to not sell to that 100 million plus customers that are using other platforms, especially given that there's no certainty that PS6 will perform as well as PS5 did? And I'm sure I'm looking at this in an overly simplified way, but given that most tech companies thrive by selling as much product to as many people as possible, the argument for exclusive seems to quickly go out the window. And I don't think he is looking at it in a simplified way, but I don't think it is wrong. I think it is just basic common sense when you take a look at this stuff. He's talking about 15 to 20 million units. Are they going to be able to sell that on PlayStation? You'll see people pointing out all these different numbers, but the fact is, PlayStation has still been selling a lot of their games to their PlayStation 4 base. They've had to leverage that in order for it to be okay with their first party games. Think of a game like God of War Ragnarok, which also released on PlayStation 4. They had to take one of their big hitters here for PS5 that is a system seller for a lot of people, and they still had to sell to the PS4 users because they knew if they only locked it to the PlayStation 5, they wouldn't be able to make as much money as they needed in order to meet their margins and all that stuff. So the reality is, one way you offset this going forward, as I do believe consoles are going to be becoming less and less popular going forward into the next generations. We are already kind of seeing that stagnation in consoles is giving it to more people, taking off the exclusive thing and selling your product on different ways and different features. So we will see what happens. I do believe PlayStation is continuously going down the avenue of Xbox. Will their games ever land on Xbox? Not 100% sure, but I do think they're going to be putting a lot more stuff day and date PC and trying to leverage that huge base of people that are on PC that would go out and purchase their games day and date. So at the end of the day, that will be better for all gamers. They'll make more money. We'll be able to get more games and more people can access the game. Now, if we do go into the comments, there are some arguments, I believe for and against this, but just some good discussion going on around this topic. We have this person here saying there are 2 different things here. Are exclusives good for consumers? Nope. Are exclusives good business strategy for the platform holders? Probably yes. Exclusives drive sales of the console. They are basically marketing. You can afford to lose money on them. And Thomas Muller replies here, you think that it's a good business strategy to lose hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue on every single AAA game you made for marketing reasons? That's one hell of a marketing campaign. It's clearly just ecosystem profits versus game profits. And the response for the platform holders, I think Nintendo is a prime example of this, and it seems to work well for them. And again, you can look at Nintendo, and that's very valid, but the reality is they have a overall different business model and how they develop their games and their AAA games and everything like that. If you would even consider them, some of them AAA games, depending on how much budget they put into it. There's some responses here. The PS1 gained its market share through exclusives, and then by that market share made it worth it to make more exclusives. I no longer own a PS5 at all because there was no value to me with only a few games that are exclusive. Sony now no longer makes consoles off of me or PSN. And again, I think that is a great point. We are definitely in an era here where people are still living in the past generations, and they think that the industry is still operating the same, which it just is not the case whatsoever. So you take a look at everything that is going on, and we are absolutely changing. We're absolutely moving to a different model. Will that be the best thing for gaming? I mean, that's yet to be foreseen, but I do think as of right now, it is the best thing for gamers, where you're not locking people out of being able to play games that are coming out, and it doesn't really matter where you play, you're getting access to it. But I'll end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.